And this is going to be like the Notebook times 10, so get ready for that. But I digress. I'd like to begin by saying that Webster's dictionary defines words. For those of you who don't know us, I'm Dan's brother Matt, and this wild card to my right is my brother Pat.
As Dan's brothers, it is our job to catalog his faults and sins all present.
As well as tell you all the things we love and adore about our new sister-in-law, Savannah, all the while further delaying your dinner.
As you can see, Dan is the tall and good-looking Brennan brother.
And as you can see, Pat is also tall, and I do my taxes on time. Between the two of us, we almost make half a Dan.
Clearly, there's a lot more pressure on Savannah to be Dan's better half. But before we go further, let's just say, big up, congratulations to Dan and Savannah.
Big up.
Pretty cool, pretty cool.
Yes, congratulations, Savannah, and to you as well, Dan. Pat and I have noticed, Dan, that you've been taking the advice of our father, Jim, who taught us 3 very important things about what it means to be a Brennan man. First, you do not sing in church. Secondly, you drive a sturdy yet moderately priced automobile. And thirdly, and most importantly, above all else, you always marry up.
All of which is very appropriate since, as I've been saying for quite a while now, you are swiftly becoming our father. Not only in your meticulous preparation, your love of directions, fear of traffic, your use of golf as a way to avoid your family, and your strict refusal to loan me large sums of cash. But really, Dan, you've always been there for me, through grade school, high school, and college. I like to think you've always been the most important influence in my life. Not necessarily my hero, or even really my role model, but definitely an influence. I like to think you've always been, you taught me the way to walk, talk, tell a joke, make a great entrance, make a clean exit, and most importantly, to not get away with anything. All of these things I learned from you, so if I suck at any of them, it's your fault, middle brother.
As Dan's older brother, I was there for a lot more of the formative events of Dan's life. For instance, I was there for Dan's first steps and the first time I tripped Dan. I was there for Dan's first birthday, which coincided with my introduction to the sin of envy. And probably most importantly, I was also there for Dan's very first beer.
The day he became a man.
I was also there that night for Dan's next 4 beers.
Chug, 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 chug.
And of course, shortly thereafter, I was there when Dan threw up beers 1 through 5.
Boo. As you can see, the 3 of us have had a very interesting adolescence. Transitioning from Massachusetts to Virginia, from bubblers to water fountains, from wicked to y'all, we leaned on each other. I often turn to Dan for advice on things such as how to talk to girls or how low I need to wear my pants. In case you need to know, it's just above the crotch but below the waist, just right. This guy perfected it in 6th grade. Just in case you wanted to know. Being strangers in a strange land, he sometimes even asks me for advice. This still comes as a surprise, because typically the only questions I usually get from Dan are, where are your keys? Pat, why are you doing that? And do you remember the last time you had your keys, your phone, and your wallet?
On the other hand, as the oldest brother in the family, Dan often looked to me for advice and guidance. Like when he was a freshman in high school and I was a senior. I recall my advice at the time was do not make eye contact with me in the hallway. And after school, I will pick you up behind that bush in the far right.
But we cannot be too hard on him. He didn't exactly have the easiest childhood. When Dan was 8, our mom tried to prove to him that his arm was not broken by vigorously shaking it, and thereby breaking his arm.
But you got neon green cast out of the deal, so I guess that was okay. Building on the theme of irony in parenting.
We love you guys.
When Dan was caught smoking a cigarette in high school, our father had him smoke an entire pack so as to teach him a very valuable lesson. Apparently that lesson was never trust an adult. But, I'm sorry. We're not here tonight to focus on the mistakes of Dan's past, but rather everything that's right about Dan's present, namely Savannah.
Oh yeah.
Savannah, I first met you in Philadelphia at a concert for Dan's band at the time that I believe was called The Medium. Looking back on it, I'm not sure The Medium truly did them justice. I would think something more like the slightly below average. Or the moderately tolerable if played at low volume. Despite this, Savannah stayed with Dan for the long term, which told us that Savannah had integrity, and that Savannah also had no interest in real rock stars.
Savannah, you are beautiful, smart, kind, and most importantly, opinionated. The quality I value most in a person, for real. I can't remember the first time I really met you, because you've been a part of our lives for so long. You know, I mean, to me, it's almost like, you know, what was life like before you first heard the Beatles, or listened to The Clash, or in your case, New Kids on the Block. You know? I mean, it doesn't really matter what happened before, it just matters that it happened. I mean, I'm just guessing though, because I've never really listened to New Kids on the Block. I don't know anything about them, never really. You, along with my brother's wife, Allie, are, you know, two of the best confidants and partners in crime I have. You know, a lot of times when we're hanging out together, it's me and Savannah in the middle of a corner, be it a bar or a familial engagement or a party, and you know, we're talking about something completely ridiculous, but the subject is very serious and we are very intense when we're talking about it.
And loud.
Yes, loud. That too. It could be Harry Potter, it could be dance moves, it could be my latest hang-up, but whatever it is, you're there, and for that, I'm extremely thankful. You know, I now have two wonderful sisters-in-law. You know, I'm very blessed. I only hope that someday I can have as close a relationship with my two biological brothers.
As is important with all relationships, Dan also gets along very well with Savannah's family. Probably most importantly, Dan gets along well with Mr. Davidson. Over the years, Mr. Davidson and Dan have done activities together like seeing how far out in the ocean they could swim when they were at the beach together, which I thought was a little odd. There was also the family whitewater rafting trip, where he made sure Dan held down the front of the raft as it careened down the rapids. But I suppose that makes sense. The one thing we'll tell you, Dan, is that if Mr. Davidson ever takes you hunting and gives you a deer costume to get back in the car,
Do not run. But all murder jokes aside, we'd just like to take a moment to say thank you very much to Mr. and Mrs. Davidson for putting on this lovely reception.
Thank you very
much.
much.
We are deeply appreciative.
We would like to close this train wreck of a toast by giving the two of you some words of wisdom to take with you as you start your married life together. Dan, do you remember the advice you gave me the night before my wedding? I recall it as something like,
You're my brother.
And then,
Allie's good. That's good.
and finally,
Who wants to order French fries? Anyway, French fries. I murdered some French fries.
Dan, as valuable and confusing as I found that at the time, the advice I'll give to you today is that marriage is wonderful and marriage is work. And the fact that it is so wonderful makes it entirely worth that work.
Savannah, you and Allison have noted time and time again that it's painfully difficult to distinguish between when a Brennan man is being serious and when he's being incredibly unnecessarily sarcastic. My advice to you is never take anything this man says seriously unless he's crying or on fire.
But seriously, Savannah, we love you an incredible amount.
We do.
And we love how happy you make our brother. We just want to tell you again, welcome to the family.
Welcome.
And Mom, close your eyes for this last
Cover
part.
your eyes for this last part. Yeah. And Dan, to you, we leave you with this. We leave you with the message you told the entire Paul VI student body on the morning video announcements back in 1999. Congratulations again. We wish you a lifetime of happiness. Brennan's out! Brennan's out!
Ladies and gentlemen, could you give it up again for Matt and Pat?